Now, there's so much to learn in Excel, isn't there? So what do you actually need to know in Excel, and how can you kind of learn quickly and punch above your weight? That's what we're digging into in this series. What do you need to know in Excel in 2021? We've got 4 sessions. Yesterday, we spoke about context. What kind of people and what are people trying to generally do in Excel? That's going to inform our choice of tool. Today, Tuesday, we're talking about applications. So broadly speaking, what different things are people trying to do? We're going to look at 4 different applications. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about tools. Yes, what needs to go in your toolkit? What tools can deliver that disproportionate benefit that we're looking for? And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about what this all means for you and how you can really get better and push forward with Excel in 2021. But first, can you let me know if you can see me and hear me if you're watching live? I can see we've got a few people in the chat. If you're watching on replay, just skip ahead a couple of minutes and we'll be into the presentation. But a big welcome to everybody watching live. Vinay is with us. Vinay says it's 15 degrees in India. Good to see you, Vinay. How are you doing? Let me know your questions. And Nikki is with us as well. I was talking to Nikki yesterday. She's one of our members. Good to see you as well, Nikki. So if you let me know in the chat, guys, can you see me? Can you hear me if you're watching live? And we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation today. So, talking about applications today. And what I've found over the years, what I've found is that we've got to make sense. We've got to make sense of Excel, of what people are doing. I've done hundreds of projects. And when a customer starts talking to me, a prospective customer, you know, I'm trying to understand what they're doing. I can categorize what they're trying to do into one of 4 things. Now, this is just interesting anyway, because it like simplifies things nicely, but it's particularly interesting when we're thinking about what we need to know in Excel in 2021, because if we can take those 4 things and say, okay, I don't need to know everything, I just need to know tools to deal with these 4 situations. That's a nice simplifying mechanism for us. That should give us confidence to learn the right stuff and know that what we're learning is going to have a real world impact. Big welcome to Craig. Hi, Craig, just tuning in. So that's our aim today. Let's go ahead and look at some different applications, and we're using the same method, the same methodology as we did yesterday. I went back through my invoice record 2 or 3 years, picked out 30 projects that I thought were representative of the work that I do generally, and we're analyzing those projects. So there's a real data set. It's real data. I'm not just presenting the stuff that I like. Some of this stuff I actually don't like. I'm presenting the stuff that's going to get you the most value in Excel in 2021. Thank you to Vinay for saying that you can hear me. So we talk about 4 types of applications, and this doesn't mean that a single Excel file does one application. In fact, as we're going to see later in this presentation, one Excel file, as it grows, kind of takes on multiple roles and can fulfill more than one application. But we generally talk about 4 applications. We talk about data inputs, data analysis, modeling, and automation. So let me know in the chat, do any of those make sense to you? Do you think you're doing a lot of modeling, a lot of data input? Let me know in the chat if these make sense to you. But let me just briefly introduce these to you. And as we go through the presentation, you're going to get more of a feel for what we mean. So data input, the most basic thing people are doing in Excel, inputting data, storing data, typing the data in. That's information we need to know for whatever reason. Let's store it in Excel. And you'll be surprised how many Excel files out there. The vast majority, surely, of Excel files, you know, I'd say probably over 90% are just concerned with data input, data storage. You must do it all the time. Let me know in the chat. You must do it all the time. You know, I just need to store some data about this work I'm doing. I'm sure you fire up Excel to do that. A lot of those Excel files grow into more sophisticated things, but data input is the most basic application and probably the most common application of Excel. Then secondly, data analysis. So here we're talking about analyzing data. It's all in the clues in the name, really. So you're not typing data in, you've already got some data, you're looking to understand it. What does this data mean? Maybe you've got some numerical data. If you're just looking at a set of numbers in Excel, you know, we can't really tell, you know, what kind of data is this? So we can do things very simply like maximum, minimum values, averages, standard deviation. Then we can apply the frequency formula. And that's an example of how you can make sense of a data set, data analysis. What do we most readily associate with data analysis? Well, graphs. We can see in our little graphic here, graphs and charts. Often people are using things like pivot tables in order to get that data analysis, but this is a very common thing that people are trying to do in Excel. It's our second application. Third application is modeling. So with a model, you have to have inputs, process, and output. Input, process, and output. That's why I've got three little nodes, would you call those, on this graphic here, because a model has to consist of input, process, and output. A lot of people think Excel is just about formulae. In reality, there's a lot more to Excel. You know, if you're using data input, if you're doing data input, you're not using any formulae at all. But if we're doing modeling, we're doing some calculations. We're trying to take an input and then perform some calculations on it and give it an output and get an output. And yesterday, we spoke about a simple budget planner. You must have done it in Excel. The next few months, what's my income? What are my expenses? Let's type those all out. Put a sum formula in to give me a sum for each month. Put a subtraction formula in to give me the difference between what's coming in and what's going out. There you're doing a piece of modeling. Yeah, so you're already an Excel modeler because you have some inputs, the values you're putting in. There's some calculations and an output. So that's what we mean by modeling. Then finally, automation. And this is more the advanced end of Excel. You know, there's not a lot of people doing automation out there, but for an Excel consultant, it's very common to do automation. So when you're doing manual work in Excel, you must be doing some manual work in Excel, moving data around files, moving data from one sheet to another, whatever it might be. You might have thought there must be an easier way to do this. And the good news is there is. It's not easy to learn. We use the programming language, which is called Excel VBA. But with Excel VBA, click of a button, you might have seen a spreadsheet with a button in, click a button, and hopefully it's going to go ahead and do all that manual work for you. That's what we call automation. Now, these are the 4 applications of Excel, you know, according to my work, according to, you know, the evidence I'm presenting anyway, in this little study: data input, data analysis, modeling, and automation. So I'm suggesting for each of these, you need to have a little set of tools that are going to allow you to get the job done. And that's what we're going to be covering today, and more so tomorrow and indeed the next day. So good to see the comments coming in, guys. Craig said, yes, related, learned something new about varieties of data analysts today in an impromptu phone interview I had earlier. Sounds interesting, Craig. Varieties of data analysts, interesting stuff. Vinay saying, yeah, input and analysis, and started for automation. This is a very common way for people to go through their Excel development. You know, they start, yeah, data input, some modeling and data analysis, and then later we get more into the automation side with VBA. And a big welcome to Henrik. Henrik, how are you doing? Good to see you today. Yeah, Nikki too, working towards the automation stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, just a quick summary really. Yeah, so data input, inputting, storing data, analysis, understanding a data set, modeling, input, process, and output, and manual work done with VBA. Now you might remember yesterday, I presented a chart to communicate how much of each one I do in my work. That's what I'm trying to do. To be precise, I went through each project and I said, okay, for this project, data input, was it 1, 2, or 3? 1 would mean we didn't do any data input or very little. 2 would mean we did some, and 3 would mean we did a lot. So I went through all my projects, rated them in this way. And what's quite interesting, the findings, you know, modeling, typically people think, oh, Excel, it must be formulae. But actually, modeling came out as delivering the least value on my projects. And then what delivered the most value? Automation. So using VBA to move things around. That's going to, if you can invest the time to learn VBA, that's going to deliver the most impact. That delivers the most impact on my projects, the most impact in your life as well. I'm absolutely sure. When you get customers going, wow, how did you do that? It's almost always because there's some automation going on using VBA. Don't forget data input. Yeah, it's not very glamorous, is it? Just talking about data input. Yeah, inputting data. Yeah, okay. Not very glamorous, but there's a lot of value in learning data input techniques, things like a drop-down menu. Can you do a drop-down menu in Excel? Can you use data validation? Can you format a spreadsheet nicely so that people know which cells to interact with? So important. Data input is so important because data input is going to determine the quality of the data. The data quality in turn determines how much data analysis you can do. So yeah, so this is the same chart again. And as you can see, yeah, for each application, kind of a different level of impact I found. But what I also found was sectoral differences here. So in my data set, I had 4 education projects. I had 2 projects with primary schools, 1 project with a further education college, and 1 project with a university. And what I found in data education, what I found in education is it's all about data analysis. Yeah, it's all about data analysis. But that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because in the UK anyway, schools are obsessed. It's not their fault. They're kind of forced to be obsessed by the government anyway, obsessed with performance measures all the time, you know, measuring the performance of the students, then recording some data, and then analyzing that data to understand overall what the performance is. And then over on this side, over in trading, yeah, automation. Yeah, and I work on forex trading, foreign exchange trading projects, and sports trading projects. People very interested in automation there. Generally, there's a lot of data moving around. In particular, people are looking to look at historical data. Yeah, so what happened yesterday in the markets? What are the football results for the past year in this league? They want to take that information and put it into a model. So often you're moving data around, which a lot of people do manually. You can do it automatically using VBA. So really interesting, these sectoral differences. So it's for you to think about that. And let me know in the chat, what sector are you working in? My argument is that's going to inform the choice of tools that you learn. So the sector you're in, the sector you want to move into, that's going to inform your choice of tools. Okay, so some example jobs, already given a few here. So yeah, these are all things I've created spreadsheets to help people do as part of the sample we're looking at in this data set. So yeah, data entry would be, I did a project for a local organization here, and they just wanted a data set consisting of applicants for a particular job. And they said, yeah, we definitely want to do it in Excel. They wanted to do some basic analysis as well. So that's an example of data input. So there we're thinking about, yeah, things like drop-down menus. How can we make this data input as smooth as possible? We actually used a user form there, a user form. So you might have seen a user form pop up in Excel. A user form is something that if you're trying to do data entry might be useful for you. Yeah, so you see how your situation informs the application informs your choice of tool. And this in turn should guide what you're learning in Excel. You don't have to learn everything. Yeah, and in the school situation, as I previously mentioned, analyzing student performance, schools doing it all the time, want to analyze it by class or by term or by gender or by whether the student is receiving free school meals or not, or term-on-term performance, kind of standard analysis. But a lot of people struggle with that kind of thing. And there's a massive market working with education and schools. So modeling, generating odds for a football team to win a match. Yeah, so a lot of football traders, they're looking to generate their own odds, compare them with the odds on offer, and that's how they guide the bets and the trades that they make. That's how they find value in the market. So in order to generate odds, you've got to have some calculations, your model, and then you're going to put data into the model, the inputs, and that's going to give you the outputs, which are your odds. So again, modeling, input, process, output. We do this a lot in football trading. And then automation. Now, this example is from a project that we're going to go into more detail about a bit later in this presentation. But I had a customer come to me, and this is in commodities. Spoke a bit about this project yesterday, but the customer came to me and said, listen, we're sending 120 emails every morning, 120 emails to staff with our price quotes. We want to give them a daily price quote, and we're doing it manually. They were basically employing somebody to do this, and they had bits kind of semi-automated in Excel. They had an Excel file with 120 sheets. That was good fun trying to get into that, but it's an example of automation, moving data around. They wanted to get some this pricing data from one sheet in the file to another sheet in the file, and then into an email, into Outlook. Yeah, and VBA allows us to do that. So just some examples of the different applications. And then once again, what's your situation? What are the applications? And then what tools do you need? And then what should you be learning? This is kind of the process that we're trying to work through. Good, good. So yeah, Nikki's working in construction, health and safety. Good. Craig saying, yeah, people calling themselves data analysts, that this HR recruiter saw at least, including people project managing but not touching the data, and another variety who create the report requested. Yeah. Interesting, data analysts. You know, what is a data analyst? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because it's like we're all data analysts really these days. We all have some exposure to data. We're all expected to do something with data. So it goes all the way up from your normal professional all the way up to people who are doing very intensive stuff, I suppose. Vinay, you're in education, fantastic stuff. So what level are you a teacher, Vinay, or are you educational management? Let us know. And Henrik in accounting as well. Sounds like there's a good spreadsheet in accounting. Okay, so it's normal for an Excel file to do more than one of these applications, but it's useful for you to understand which you're trying to do because each has a different set of tools. And as I said, this is where I'm trying to go with this. And hopefully it will come through as we go through the week. But yeah, generally speaking, what are people trying to do? What's the context? And then what are the specific applications of Excel that fit into that context? And then what are the tools that are going to help with those applications? I'm trying to get you to a situation where you realize you don't have to learn everything. You really don't have to learn everything. That new tool that someone on LinkedIn is talking about, the new Excel formulae, XLOOKUP and stuff, it's counterproductive, I think, all of the clamor about the new stuff. Yeah, just stick with me. Seriously, I'll guide you through it. I'll tell you what you need to know. Understanding different applications also helps because it allows us to create good overall file design. What is the role of this sheet and what is the role of this file? Yeah, so as you go through your Excel learning, your Excel career, you're going to realize that having good overall file design saves so many headaches. And I know we've got Nikki in the chat today. We've been working on one of Nikki's files this year in Members Monday, our membership program. It's quite a complicated file, lots of sheets. So with our 4 applications, you can start planning how is the file going to work overall? Where is the data input going to happen? Where is the data going to sit? Where is the analysis going to happen? And if there's some automation, how is that automation triggered and how is it configured? You know, you might have one sheet for each one. So just having these concepts are going to improve your practice in a more general sense as well. So let's have a look at a mini case study to kind of understand how, again, consolidate understanding of what the different applications are, data input, data analysis, modeling, automation, but also to understand how these might all fit together in a single file. And we're going to talk more about the commodities project. So this project I started last year and kind of finished it up this year. I'm still in contact with this customer. But it's, yeah, in commodities trading, and the client spends too much time manually sending price quotes to a pool of around 120 customers each morning. The prices are generated by taking the live commodity prices as a base, then adding haulage costs and a margin for the company. There are multiple hauliers and the best price should be chosen. In addition, the client wishes to use different margins for different customers and have the ability to use a file to help with their negotiations with customers. The Excel file should automate most of the above with some intervention from the client where desired. So this is what we went into, and I was sitting down with the prospective customer at that time, this time last year, and because of my experience and because I know these concepts, you know, what the applications are, it gave me a lot of confidence, and generally it gives me a lot of confidence in client meetings to, you know, understand what they're talking about. So the customer was here saying, yeah, things like, you know, we spend too much time manually sending the price quotes. Automatically, I'm translating that and thinking, okay, automation. Whenever someone says we're spending too much time, bang, that means automation might help. There are multiple hauliers and the best price should be chosen. The best price should be chosen. Okay, so through my experience, You know, and you can begin to do this yourself generally, and you might be able to do it already. I don't know, maybe I'm being patronizing. The best price should be chosen. Okay, so that to me is modeling. Yeah, because we can have a formula in there, line up all the prices somewhere in the spreadsheet, use a max formula to pick out the max, and then use match and offset or match and index to get us the best price. So I'm listening to the customer and doing a process of translation. Okay, what application is that? It's only one of 4 things. It's only ever one of 4 things. So this was the briefing. And from the briefing, you know, I'd massively recommend doing this on your projects as well. Create what I call a task breakdown. A task breakdown. So this is, you might call this a requirements table. I really like doing it in a specific way. I really like using a verb. So all of these tasks are action oriented. That's just more precise. You know, you could say, okay, number 1, customer detail database. You know, that would be kind of accurate, but it's not as compelling to me as saying input customer details. It's action oriented. It's something your customer is actually going to do. And it just seems to resonate better with people. So this is really a translation of our previous briefing, translating it into these tasks. Now, if you could do that, translate it into tasks, what can you then do? Can you see this coming? You can then categorize the tasks, categorize those tasks into one of 4 applications. Yeah. So I need a spreadsheet to do this. This is the application. And then tomorrow we're going to be talking about more tools. And then these are the tools that I should be using for this application. It's a great, I use it all the time on my projects. It's a great way to structure a whole project, keep your project on track, and just get a really nice output for your customer. Vinay's saying, okay, you're managing lectures as well as dealing with exam-related data. Totally, Vinay. There's so much data around in education these days. And I know a lot of teachers struggling with it. My brother is a lecturer in a university in Berlin, and I'm always doing work for him, quite often doing work for him anyway. I've built a couple of Excel-based tools that he absolutely loves. He's always using in his practice. So if we've got our task breakdown, we can then go ahead and think, okay, for each task, what application is it? I've called this application balance, and this visual, so where something is colored, it means that that application is happening. So remember, the keyboard is data input. Our little chart here is data analysis. Our modeling symbol is modeling. And then finally, automation here. Yeah, so inputting customer details, okay. Yeah, so the first thing I've got to do with the spreadsheet is input the customer details. So that sounds like a kind of routine thing, but it's really important. I knew as the developer, we had to get that right. Yeah, we had to have high data quality there. That's because everything else, when we get to the exciting automation part at the bottom, it depends on the quality of the data, depends on the quality of the data. If we've got a situation where the customer name, you know, there's spellings, there's spaces on the end, if we haven't validated the data, the programming, it's going to be too difficult to do the programming, really. Okay, so all of these parts are really important, and data input is kind of underrated, yeah, because we have to have clean data. Data input allows us to do that. So what techniques, what are our tools here? Yeah, data validation. So things like drop-down menus, data validation rules on cells, so maximum, minimum values. If you want a date in a cell, you can set the cell validation to date, to have a date in. You should also be thinking about things like spreadsheet layout, the formatting of the spreadsheet. Is it easy to see which cells to interact with here? You can do things like locking the cells that you don't want the user to be able to access. So the user can tab through, using the tab key, can just tab through the input cells. How about that? You can do things like having buttons next to the cells. Click a button. It puts an input in, VBA based. All kinds of input mechanisms. And I've done whole projects, you know, 5-10 day projects just on developing input mechanisms. But in this case, as we said at the beginning, a file evolves to encompass more than one application. So yeah, in this one, inputting the customer details, inputting the haulier details, we were definitely doing, you know, data input at that point. Then, as I said, yeah, from the haulier details, we had to select the best price. Okay, well, that's going to be modeling because we're going to use formulae to do that. I've said select the best price. That's not the user selecting the best price. That's actually the spreadsheet's going to do that. So the model is going to do that. Using a max formula, we can go ahead and do that automatically. The customer loves it. Get the live pricing data off the internet. They wanted some moving averages as well. They also wanted this month-on-month chart. So the prices today compared to the prices this time last month, or might have been this time last week. So what's that? Well, we've got to analyze the data. Get the data into a format that we can display in a chart. That is data analysis. So that's another application for us. Generating the final price. There was some data inputs here so that they could input their margin and do some tweaks. And then, that's also formulae doing that, pulling the price and adding the different components of the price together. Then finally, kind of the most exciting stuff, you might say, populating an email template and sending the email to customers. So there we're moving data around a file, or in this case, moving data around in the Office suite. So moving a data from Excel to another application, in this case, Outlook. So there we're thinking about automation. So I hope that gives you some ideas. For your practice. But you really want to be thinking, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? Yesterday, we spoke about context. I gave you lots of examples, different sectors, different things people are trying to do, the kind of organizations working with Excel. Think about that, but you want to do this process of translation. I want to do this. That is an example of data input. That's an example of modeling. That's an example of automation. This in itself doesn't sound too exciting, does? Okay, I know it's automation, so what? Good question. So what? Okay, well, if you know it's automation, you're going to have to go with VBA. If you know it's modeling, then you're going to have a set of formulae to use to create the model and to do the calculations. If it's data analysis, that it's probably not going to be formulae, although you could use some data analysis formulae, but it could be pivot tables, could be Power BI that's going to help you there. And if you're inputting data to a spreadsheet and storing it, then you want to be thinking about data input mechanisms. So there you go, guys. Any further questions in the chat today? I'd love to answer them. And tomorrow we will be moving on to our toolkit. So for each of these applications, what are the tools? Or specifically, what are my favorite tools here? What tools have I found most effective for each of these applications? And remember, the whole message from the series, what you need to know in Excel in 2021, you don't need to know it all, guys. Seriously, don't be distracted by people saying you have to know X, Y, Z. It's discouraging, isn't it? So hopefully going through this process, you're going to realize we only need a subset of tools, that's learnable. Certainly in a year is going to be learnable. And that hopefully is going to boost your Excel learning in 2021. Can't see any questions, guys, but put any final questions in the chat. And I just want to tell you briefly about Friday. Yes, we've got our launch party on Friday. You can see the ticker at the bottom of the screen there. 7 o'clock UK. It's actually the first birthday party of our membership. Program. So if you want to push forward with your Excel VBA in 2021, we've got about 30 people in our membership program, and it's really cool. It's a cool place to hang out. Everyone's really nice. You have a weekly appointment with me. You have access to all of the previous weekly appointments, all of the previous live streams as well. We have a content navigator to help you find the topics that you need. It's just going to be so cool. And on Friday, we're actually going to give away a membership on Friday. So hopefully you'll join us in 2021, but I hope you'll definitely join us Friday for the party at 7 o'clock. Question coming in from Craig here. And Craig says, okay, what do you know of Power BI? I might be interested in a discussion about that. I know, but I have some gaps. So Craig, my knowledge of Power BI is pretty limited, Craig. I've got to say, I've watched some videos, it looks cool. There's no doubt to me it looks cool. And the idea of throwing some data at Excel and Excel intelligently figuring out what to do with it, yes, that sounds good, which broadly speaking is what I understand what Power BI does. For me, I would prefer to do that myself because you can do it with a greater level of precision yourself. And if you can generate the charts yourself, do the analysis yourself, then you probably don't need Power BI, is what I'm saying, really. And I think the downside with Power BI is the power of it means that some people are not quite ready for that kind of power, is what I'd say. So I'd always advocate, if you have the time and the resources, to actually go through and learn how to do the analysis yourself. Okay, so for me, we're going to cover the tools tomorrow, of course, but for me, data analysis formulae, I'm talking things like sum ifs, average ifs, frequency, possibly pivot tables you can use. But I always use, the data analysis formulae coupled with charts. That's what I was doing today. That's how I did the analysis for this series. That for me is the best way to do it. It doesn't look the coolest necessarily, although you can make it look as cool as Power BI, but it gets the job done. And Power BI, certainly a cool thing. But for me, Craig, you've got to be, and I was speaking to you yesterday, I know you're kind of a critical consumer, but you've got to be critical. Power BI has lots of promotion behind it. Microsoft pays people to review it, and promote it and make it sound good. That doesn't mean it's the best tool for the job. And that's what really frustrates me about the Excel landscape these days. It's really quite a muddled place. There's all kinds of stakeholders and actors in there, pushing different agendas. And I just want people to be able to look at it and be able to simplify really. There's a lot of people putting content out there, creating noise that isn't necessarily helpful. Okay, and I'm just looking to simplify matters, and I'm doing that, on the basis of what I use on my projects, which my customers still love. They still love in 2021. I'm pretty sure they're going to be loving for the rest of my career. So thanks so much, guys. I really enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about what this toolkit looks like. Take care.